9. "Toa, teo, teo," said Dakota, directing his remark to the forest beyond. There was no sound from the forest. The four grouped together in the tiny clearing were frozen as though time had stopped. Knight, the leader of the patrol, the man who was supposed to make the decisions and direct the actions of the others, was as stunned and silent as a computer that had just been overloaded with information. He stared at the dragon symbol of the Draconis Combine in the hands of the Tatate. His field of vision narrowed, the outside edges becoming dark. All he could see was the glowing red and gold emblem in the alien's soft palm. It mesmerized him, holding him transfixed. He felt lightheaded, dizzy, unconnected with the ground or anything else. Slowly his mind fought back against the cloud. He struggled up from the depths of some unconscious universe to regain the light in the forest. His field of vision widened until he could see the tableau of the three other figures around him. He glanced into the eyes of the other team members. Holland's eyes were vibrating, the condition of nystagmus that occurred after a violent neurological shock. All three members of the team had certainly suffered that. Org sat crumpled, slack-jawed to his left. Knight reached out and touched each, shaking them from their reverie. He looked straight at Dakota. "You must come back with us," he said, his voice hoarse and strained. "Shosa Dakota must speak to you. You will come with us." Dakota nodded in agreement. He rose on his legs to his full height and turned to the circle of trees. "Toa, teo, teo, da da, de de," he said to the blank wall of green. There was an answering chorus from the wall. "Da da, da da, da da," it echoed. Org rose and stepped menacingly toward the Tatate. "What did you say?" he asked, thrusting the laser rifle toward the bird creature. Not sure where it would be most menacing to point it, he aimed it directly between the thing's eyes. "What did you say?" "I told them I with you was going. I said I going with the people from the sky. They just repeated the word we use for what is happening is now. That's all I did. It will be all right." "You'd better be careful." Org was threatening enough in real life. He was quite spectacular when he really wanted to sound nasty. Dakota looked at him, his four pupils tracking toward the muzzle of the rifle until they were all congregated in the front of his eye slits. Org couldn't tell if the alien had gotten the message, but the side of the eyes virtually crossed in the front of his body was ludicrous. He began to laugh. The eyes returned to their normal positions. Knight touched Horg on the shoulder. "It's all right, Horg," he said. "I'm sure Dakota won't try anything. He's been pretty good to us so far. He won't try to run. It'll be all right." Then Knight laughed too, joined by Holland. Dakota looked at the three of them laughing. "That sound," he said. "I have not heard humans make that sound before. Is it a bad sound?" "No, Dakota," smiled Holland. "This is the sound we make when we are amused, when we find something that tickles us." She looked at Dakota, but he didn't seem to comprehend. "Don't you know what funny means?" The alien continued to stare. "I can see that you have a lot to learn about us. I'm surprised that you never heard the others laugh. They must be awful serious. We laugh all the time." "I want you to see what this is," said Dakota. He nodded his head, his whole body rocking back and forth on his long legs. He turned in the direction of the camp. Knight knew the path he had taken from the camp to reach the point where the encounter had taken place. The patrol had been planned as a deep sweep, designed to penetrate as far as possible into the forest and still return to the campsite before darkness engulfed their little world. A little world that had suddenly become much larger. He also knew the most direct path back to the site. Dakota took neither of these. The alien led the group, his long legs contracted against his body and then extending well forward to brush away the foliage before he put his six-toed foot onto the ground. Knight saw that each of the two pairs of forward-reaching toes was matched by a single toe in the rear. These two groups of three were completely articulated and able to grasp objects independently. The large hands on the thin arms were of the same design. This system made the Tatate exceptionally capable of manipulating objects. Dakota led in an essentially straight line along an almost invisible path, but he avoided the deep swamp areas and the steep wooded ravines, pointing each out as he bypassed them. They did not talk to each other as they moved, respectful of the forest around them. Good woods people did not talk when in the forest. They concentrated their efforts on their progress and thus had little time or interest in conversation. The fact that they moved in single file also had something to do with their silence. Dakota stopped them at the edge of one of the numerous swamps and pointed to the varicolored globes that hung from the trees. "Those you eat can," he said. He directed their gaze toward a cluster of waxy purple spheres. "Those you not eat make humans sick. Humans say they smell bad." He shook his body, and what the humans had learned was something like a shrug. Knight responded to the remark. "We can eat many things. Is there anything in here that you cannot eat?" Dakota eyed him furtively. Then he decided that the human wanted the information just to know, not because he was looking for some way to hurt the Tatate. These humans, were not like the few others he had encountered. Certainly not like the humans of legend and fable that the Tatate used to terrify their young. He was glad that he had argued in favor of encountering these life forms. Other members of the tribe had warned against it, and said that no good could possibly come from such an encounter. But Dakota had prevailed. "We try not to eat anything with a four-pointed leaf. That for us is bad sign. That is a truth for as long as I can remember. I do not know if all four-pointed things will hurt, but I stay away." Dakota picked some of the fruit, including a couple of the purple ones. They were, he noted, well thought of by the Tatate, even if the humans couldn't seem to stomach them. Before long, the patrol was burdened with a plethora of specimens. The members of the patrol pondered the information. The forest hummed and twittered. The smooth surface of the swamp was broken by the occasional ripple of something beneath the glassy surface, rising to feed on some unsuspecting insect that had wandered too close. Knight hoped that whatever was doing the eating had a fondness for the mosquitoes that relished human blood. Around them, they could hear the twittering and chirping of what could only be other Tatate, those who were following Dakota and their party. A raucous shout broke the stillness. Laughter followed. "That's a mercenary patrol," said Horg. "I bet one of them fell into the pit. Maybe we should help." "No," replied Holland. "Let them be. I've had enough of them and their leader for the rest of my life. I don't even want to associate with them. Let's just stay here and let them go by." "My sentiments exactly," agreed Knight. "Both wants to be king." He drew himself up, placing his fists on his hips and thrusting out his chest. "I want all of you people to think of me as your god," he said. His pose and articulation were so close to that of Vost that the others laughed. "I am the person most qualified to lead you to my promised land," he continued. Holland and Horg grinned back. The sounds from the other patrol grew louder and more hysterical as they crashed through the brush. The mercenaries were laughing so much that they couldn't possibly be aware of anything around them. The chattering from the hidden Tatate grew louder as well. Dakota cocked his head and listened to the noise close at hand. "Ka-de-de," he snapped to the hidden figures. "Ka-de-de." He stepped to the ring of leaves behind the party and parted some of them with his hands. "Ka-ka-ka." He stepped back, shaking his head. Some of the others have gone to meet your friends. I do not think that is a good idea. I told them no, 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 but they already gone. Damn, said Knight in an even voice. I think you were right. They don't want to meet the Mach patrol. Can you get them back? I not think so. Hope for the best. Maybe the Mux will deal with them calmly. I'll try and warn the Mux to expect visitors. Horg said, raising the boom mic to his lips. His hope was shattered by a burst of weapon fire. Knight recognized the sound of the slug pistols that all the mercenaries carried. There were shouts and the sounds of breaking foliage. Then, more pistol shots. One of the slugs whined overhead, snapping branches as it continued into the darkness of the forest. A chorus of Tatate voices erupted from the vegetation beyond. Dakota listened. De-de-de, 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 he chattered to the unseen listeners. He turned back to the party. Your friends have killed one of my others. They are very afraid. They do not know what to do. This is very bad. I have told them to run away. I hope they will. The Tatate wrung his hands as he talked. This is very bad. It is Kada. Can we get the body back? Asked Holland. She could see the pinched expression on the face of the Tatate, could almost feel the pain in his eyes. It's important, isn't it? She asked, putting her hand on the arm of the alien. They have gone to try, but I not think it will work. Another fusillade of pistol shots echoed through the forest. The patrol crouched instinctively against the surrounding trees. Soft snick of safeties being thumbed into the ready position was the only sound they made. More shots. Knight reached up to pull the alien down to safety. He grasped the figure by the sloping shoulder and felt warm stickiness under his hand. Dakota crumpled at his feet. Knight dragged the alien toward the sanctuary of the tree he was using for cover. Dakota was conscious and tried to crawl in the direction Knight was dragging. Holland pushed from behind, exposing her own body to the occasional random shots that still snapped above them. The long, thin legs that were so admirably made for moving through the forest were not as useful when it came to crawling. Obviously, this was not a mode of travel for which the aliens were designed. Holland muttered something about this under her breath. The efforts of all three eventually got Dakota under cover of the thick trunk of the tree. Panting from the effort, the two humans and the wounded alien huddled together. The only sound from the forest was a soft plopping. The sounds of the other Tatate had vanished. Even the soft hum of the insects and the bubbling from the swamp had become still. Holland glanced back to where she had left Horg squatting at the ready with his laser rifle. He was so well camouflaged that it took several moments before she could discern his motionless figure. Then the sounds of cheering broke the stillness. The mercenaries were headed back toward the camp with their prize. Holland hoped that it was only one prize. Let's get going, she whispered. We've got to get him to camp as soon as possible. Knight looked into the eyes of the Tatate. Can you travel all right? He asked.